I started getting sick when I was about 9, I think like 8 or 9. I had optic neuritis, so that's an inflammation of the optic nerve behind your eye. And I essentially went blind, lost my vision, lost my color. I don't really remember it. I remember seeing shadows. I remember having headaches. I remember my family being really concerned that I had a brain tumor. I went in for an MRI, nothing. It was good. It was a blessing. It cleared up and it went away in not too long. And so I was 9, probably a couple, 2, 3 years later, 11 or 12 or so, I started having physical problems. I thought it was normal. I thought it was normal for me to be clumsy. I thought it was like a growth stage. I rolled my ankle a lot. I remember in PE, us running across the field and me not being able to do it, which was embarrassing more than anything. I didn't think anything was seriously wrong with me, probably until my parents got divorced. And I think that's when everyone kind of like realized it was something more serious. I had numbness before, like numbness and tingling, pins and needles. We always thought that was like a pinched nerve or something like that. I saw a lot of chiropractors. Didn't really see any doctors until that time, until I was about 12. For different reasons, I developed a stomach ulcer, couldn't really eat. I threw up a lot. They were concerned that I had an eating disorder, which I didn't. My stomach was just really irritated. And then I lost the ability to walk almost completely, which is it's hard at a young age to not know what's wrong with you and not be able to walk, be bedridden. So throwing up, and I couldn't walk, and I was really dizzy and had a lot of different pains, a lot of numbness, a lot of pins and needles. So many different doctors came to see me in the hospital. There was no diagnosis, nothing. I was on an IV to hydrate myself. Started getting a little bit better. So I was just there for a couple days and just acted like everything was fine. So, that was during the summer. I started school in 7th grade, and you're really self-conscious in 7th grade anyways. So it was hard. It was hard not being able to walk normal. It's such a hard stage. And I think it was about midway through that school year that I came home and I told my mom that there was definitely something wrong with me. And she started taking me to doctors. We started with a pediatrician. She had no idea, but she knew it was something neurological. From then, I started seeing neurologists, having a lot of tests done. I was tested for Lyme disease at that time, and it was a negative test. So we moved on. It was probably about a year or so before I started seeing MS specialists. I was diagnosed with MS. I fit the criteria, had every symptom. So I was diagnosed with pediatric MS. They kind of didn't know what to do with me at such a young age and weighing under 100 pounds. As far as medication, they didn't know what to do with me. I think it was about a year after my MS diagnosis that I started MS medication. So MS is an autoimmune disease, essentially an overactive immune system. So the drugs and the medicine suppress your immune system and they slow it down. And for MS, that makes it better. For me, it was extremely hard because I didn't know at the time that I had Lyme disease. And Lyme disease is almost completely opposite than MS in the way that it works, because it's a bacteria. You have bacterial infection in your bloodstream that attacks your organs and your brain and your neurological. It can affect you in a lot of ways. For me, it was neurologically. So once I went on MS drugs, it was really hard for me, and I got really, really sick. And it made what I thought was MS a lot worse. And so my doctors were always continuously being more and more and more aggressive, to the point where I couldn't do it. And so this is over the course of, I guess, my growing up years, my adolescence, and even into college. And it was after college I decided to go off of all MS medication. And I went on a whole food diet, and that helped me immensely. And I could not believe it. And I couldn't believe that I helped myself more than any doctor had ever helped me. It was pretty unbelievable. And I guess I kind of phased out neurologists as I grew up. I didn't think I needed them. I never wanted to be as sick as I was during my last episode with what I thought was MS. It was extremely hard, and I never gave up hope, but it made complete sense that I would never get better. And you feel pretty defeated when you go to your doctor and they kind of just look at you like, I'm sorry, I don't know what to do. So that was hard. And I guess my experience kind of made me not like neurologists at all. I felt like there was nothing that anyone could do for me, and I could just do it by myself, because that was working. So it was almost a year ago in January that I started having symptoms, and I had it in a long time. I had bad days every once in a while. I was really tired, or just didn't really feel that good. But my leg went numb, and it went like all numb in almost like a couple days, one or 2 days, from like my foot to my butt. Like my whole leg was numb. I couldn't feel anything. I don't really know how I could still walk, but I could. Gratefully, I could still walk. I was in also a lot of different pains on my leg. I knew I needed to go to a new neurologist, so I found one. And kind of standard, she was really surprised that I was on anything. And I just wanted a quick dose of like steroids to get me back on track and make it go away, and I would be fine. But she wanted to run a bunch of tests on me, which is kind of standard, especially for me having MS and not seeing one in a long time. So what she did was she gave me an MRI, which was normal. I had a spinal tap, and I never had a spinal tap before, so that was really hard. And she took a lot of blood. She tested me for Lyme disease, and I didn't know that she was testing me for Lyme disease. I didn't really understand that it was a question whether or not I had MS, because I just always thought that was perfectly clear to doctors that I had MS, and it couldn't be anything else. So my MRI showed up with brain lesions, which is normal for MS, or Lyme disease, I guess, apparently. It could be MS or Lyme disease. My spinal tap was, I guess, they were testing for proteins, specific proteins, to tell whether or not I had MS, and those were not present. So my spinal tap was negative for MS. My blood work was positive for Lyme disease, which is really surprising to me and was really hard to hear. Especially, I didn't expect it at all. I went in for my test results, were then expecting them to say, oh, you need to be on MS medication. Here are your options. And that wasn't it at all. So that was hard. I didn't know what Lyme disease was. I knew obviously it was close to MS because that's what everyone thought I had for most of my life. But I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know how it was treated. I didn't know what to do or where to go from there. So that was hard. It was hard going back to square one, I guess, with my health, where I thought I had it all figured out, but I really didn't have anything figured out.